Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Theme Park Loopy podcast. And today we're going to be talking about Universal UK. Lots to talk about. We've got a reasonably busy studio today. We've got Brett, we've got Dan, and also we've got Sam as well. How are you doing, Brett? We've had you on. We had you on before Christmas, didn't we? I think that was the last time that we saw you on here.
Yeah, I think so. I had a bit of a rough Christmas because I don't know if you ever post any YouTube videos. I actually had chicken pox
Oh,
over Christmas time, so still covered in scars from it. Um, but yeah, that was my Christmas, and I've just been working away because in 6 days I will be heading over to Pennsylvania in America to open a new My Haunted Manor as a new franchise of what I do.
brilliant. And Dan, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. It doesn't sound as though I'm as busy as Brett. That sounds quite intense. But yeah, no terrible illnesses. I'm in training for the London Marathon, um, so that's tiring. But other than that, yeah,
That's
just ticking along really.
That's an understatement. What is it? 26 miles, 26 and a bit
Yeah, I
miles?
think
Is that what
it's
it is?
26.2, I think maybe. But
Yeah.
currently, I'm only running about 50 kilometers a week, which apparently is not very good. So I need to up my game.
Well, it's 50 kilometers more than what I've been running, so it's not too bad, is it? And
Wow.
and Sam, how are you doing?
Hello. I am currently in bed, quite sick as a dog. So, which is rare. I can't think of the last time I was sick. I don't think I've been sick for years. That's probably an overstatement, isn't it? Let's be honest. But I'm all right though. I'm just ticking along here in Abu Dhabi. Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, well, so the exciting news is that potentially Universal are going to be opening a park in the UK. So most of the episode is going to be dedicated to that. We're going to do a little bit of speculation, whether we think it's going to happen or not, and also what rides and attractions might be coming as well. But before we do that, we had a bit of breaking news. I think it was last week around Nemesis, and we've had it confirmed now that Nemesis in its new form will be called Nemesis Reborn. So I'm going to pass over to our Alton Towers aficionado, officially, to Brett, and he's going to tell us all about it. What's going on at Alton Towers, Brett?
I mean, anyone who has been living completely under a rock in the last couple of weeks will have not heard that Nemesis has now been dubbed Nemesis Reborn. And I did let out a little cry when I saw the fact that they're actually reusing the original logo, which I absolutely love so much. I'm surrounded by it in this room right now. Yeah, it's amazing. They've decided to kind of hash the logo, made it all white. They've made the eye into an eye because this big new central eye is going to be a big piece of the new station. And it's just really nice to kind of go back to that style. So I think Nemesis sort of lost what it originally was. It lost its kind of hammer horror alien style 90s thing. And it's really nice to see that they've brought that back to life a little bit. It's fairly clear that John Burton, who is head of designing for Merlin at the minute, is a theme park fan like us. That's how he started off, and now he's moved up into being the top guy, essentially taking over the likes of John Wardley. And it was quite clear at Alton Manor, Curse of Alton Manor. There was lots of Easter eggs of previous rides and stuff like that. The guy clearly understands the fanboy's point of view. And I was completely shocked because I had seen previous concept art that had an old the Nemesis logo that we know, the straight sort of boring font, and it was just Nemesis Reborn in that same font. So I was convinced that was going to be the case. And then they slammed another whopper of a video on us a few days ago where they sent a video through of it on its first test run, and it looks incredible. The trains are going to be red restraints with black wheel covers with a hint of red on them. I think they look really clean. They look really nice. They complement the track really well. A lot of people were commenting how slow it looks. I can confirm by the person who filmed it, who commented on Facebook today, actually saying that he filmed the first run through of that train. So it was going to be slow. Of course, it's going to be slow. But at the same time, you know, they probably didn't know exactly how it was going to run with this new sort of updated track style and slightly updated trains. But I think it looks incredible. What do you guys think of it?
Well, I was slightly surprised that we didn't bring back the bubble logo. I was slightly scared that we were going to have the bubble logo, so I'm happy with that. I'm not. I don't know if I'm a massive fan of the veins on the track. Personally, I do really like the new kind of monster with the big eye. I think that's really cool. I think the trains with the red restraints, they look really cool. I just hope that the veins don't sort of wear off over time. One of the attractions of Nemesis was that it kind of almost looked like it was worn down and it was a little bit rusty, and that was kind of part of its charm to me. It was like you looked at it and you thought, this looks intimidating. With the red veins, it looks slightly cartoony to me, but I know a lot of people like it, so that's probably an unpopular opinion.
I really like the theme. I was a bit blown away when I saw the pictures coming out recently, and I think what really sells it to me are the veins. Not just because Ryan thinks otherwise, but because I just genuinely think it's a cool look. I think it's sort of that growing out vibe that it's got, like it's coming out at all angles. Because as you're going through the queue line, it's over you going by it. I think it sort of works with how it's located and the fact that it's sort of coming out of the ground and going into the ground, and a bit of a mess of the track that makes it great. So yeah, I think it's really good. I'm looking forward to seeing it up and running fully and riding it. Is it all like, what's the situation with the track? Is it all new? How has it been redone?
So, I mean, I agree with you with the track. I agree kind of with both of you. I agree it looks cartoony a little bit, but at the same time, I can't think of another roller coaster that had the track as theming. Nemesis, like Ryan said, you know, was rusty and it even had blood splats on it in its original paint job. That's the first roller coaster and only roller coaster I can think of that made the track into a genuine part of the story. And I think that's what they were trying to do with this, you know, continuing that. And what roller coaster has red veins all over it? I think that's pretty cool. As for the actual track itself, all of it is new except for the lift hill, station, and brake run. So a lot of people are now debating: is this a new roller coaster? Is this not? Well, I don't know what everyone's thoughts are on that. I don't do the whole credit counting thing, so
I absolutely adore the color scheme for this. I think if you're going to go for a strong color scheme and kind of theme, you can't get stronger than red and black, right? Like, it stands out. It would perfect for all occasions. Imagine it lit up at Halloween as well with the shine coming off the black track. It's going to look beautiful for Scarefest. And as I say, as you guys mentioned as well, the red restraints, chef's kiss. I adore them. I don't really have an opinion on the veins. I just wanted to comment on the vein situation. I don't really have a particular feeling about veins, but they're there. That's wonderful. Is it a new coaster? Would I personally consider it as a new coaster because it's been rethemed? And I guess the track is technically new hardware, new coaster hardware. Yes, because it's new hardware. I think had they kept the old track, then no, then because it's the same machine, but it's brand new restraints, brand new cars, brand new track, brand new station. They've just replaced it, but it's still new.
Does that mean
in
that?
My opinion, it does.
What about the Hulk at Universal? Because they did the same thing there, didn't they? They replaced all of the track, and no one ever sort of thinks that's a new coaster. It's just retracked.
Well, I would then disagree, and I would say it is a new coaster because they flipped the station as well and the queue line of the Hulk, right? So it is an entirely different ride experience, and they also added the onboard audio. So then I would consider that a new. Yeah, I would. I think
It's like a Triggers broom situation off Only Fools and Horses, isn't it? Where like, at what point does it become a new broom?
Personally, I think it's the same. It's the same ride. It's the same layout. It's in the same place. It's the same experience, pretty much. So I would say it's the same ride, in my opinion. But before we move on, Brett, I think you've got something that you want to show us.
Yeah, so my girlfriend actually got me a 3D printer. And like Dan said earlier, the most Brett thing to do ever would be to obviously immediately 3D print a really accurate model of Nemesis, right? What else would you do? So I spent a bit of time learning how to 3D print things. By a bit of time, I mean like 4 hours. And then made this, which is like a incredibly sort of accurate Nemesis model. I've even got like the bus, the overturned bus in there, with the logo on the side. Yeah. So the station itself and the bus is 3D printed. And I actually had the guys at Virtual Towers Online to thank for sending me the file to 3D print that. I had to do a bit of work to get it to work, but yeah, it's turned out really cool. I actually have lights to put in it as well, so it's going to be all lit up as well because I don't do anything by halves.
And Dan, what does your 3D printed version of Nemesis look like?
Well, I don't have a 3D printer, but I do have FIMO, so I could probably produce for a hot mess. But I'm not gonna. But what annoyed me though is that Brett said, "Oh, I've got a new 3D printer for Christmas," and then like a day later, he was like, "Look what I've made," and it was this stunning model, which just annoyed me, to be honest.
I'm sorry.
You should be.
When you said you made a model, right, of the Nemesis track, I was so expecting like a kind of Lego brick model thing. Like, whenever I've seen 3D printers in the past, they've always been like really chunky models. And then you bring out this intricate, detailed, stunning piece that could almost be, it's pretty much art, isn't it? Practically, especially for us theme park nerds. So like, oh, it's just amazing. My goodness. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that.
Yeah, it took a bit of work to get it right. And there's still a little bit of work to do on it, but it's turned out awesome. I didn't want to do something that just looked, a bit, that's a model. Because 3D printed stuff, you can tell. You can tell it's 3D printed a lot of the time. I wanted to go all out, make sure I got a lot of specific brushes and paints and gloss to make it all work. The grass and trees are all model railway things. It took a lot, but it's come out really nice, and I'll make sure I send you a video when it's all finished and mounted on the wall.
Can you just make sure one thing for me? Can you just make sure that you don't forget the nice deep veins, please? I want some throbbing veins on the side of the track.
You know what I actually found doing a bit of research in actually painting this model? I look for as much imagery of the original 1994 opening day paint job. And the station actually used to have a lot of veins all over it. A lot of people didn't even know about that. Even the guys at Virtual Towers Online that have spent years looking at images to model it all. Yeah, there was little veins running up the side of the legs and stuff, which looked really cool. They're hard to spot in photos, but they were there.
Perfect. Well, I can't wait to see the progress in a month or two when we get the lights in there. We'll have to turn all the lights off and you'll have to do a bit of a show. I can't wait. Right, okay. So Universal UK, is it happening? Is it not happening? This is the big news. This changes everything. We've got theme parks in the UK, some really big ones, some really great ones, but Universal coming to the UK is very similar to Disney opening a theme park in the UK. It would be a massive shift in the industry into the UK. So it's something that could be amazing, especially if it's the only Universal park in all of Europe. it means that the UK kind of becomes this kind of amusement industry hub almost, because people will travel from all across Europe to Universal, and then they might go and spend a day at Alton Towers, they might go to Chessington, they might even go to Blackpool. It could just change everything. It could be amazing. So what do we know so far? So we know that Comcast, who are the parent company of Universal Resorts and Experiences, I think it's called, they've bought 500 acres of land. 500 acres, I believe, is about the same size as the land that Alton Towers is on. Not the theme park, but the entire parcel of land. So that gives you an idea of the kind of size that we're talking about. So not gigantic, because even when we talk about Disneyland Paris, that's thousands of acres in size. Even I think Disneyland over in California is actually bigger than 500 acres, and of course Disney World is tens of thousands of acres. So we're not talking about a huge piece of land, however, big enough to have a decent sized theme park and resort. Now, the parcel of land, this is in Bedfordshire, and when they first said Bedfordshire, I was kind of surprised, because I kind of expected it to be in Kent or somewhere like that, maybe a little bit closer to London. But then when I looked at it on the map and I looked at the parcel of land, it's almost obvious that it's perfect for a theme park. It's got train lines running either side, perfect for putting train stations there. I think there's 2 major roads that go past as well, so perfect for transport. And only around about 40 minutes drive away from Luton Airport. And why Luton Airport is important is because Luton Airport is Luton Airport is probably the UK's biggest low-cost flights hub. So EasyJet and Ryanair, they all use it as major hubs. I think Ryanair do, certainly EasyJet do, but it's a major low-cost hub. Now, I looked at some prices of flights into Luton, and you can fly from Berlin for £29. You can fly from Charles de Gaulle in Paris for £50. So you can easily see that even someone in France, in Germany, in Spain, anywhere in Europe could actually do an affordable trip over to Luton and therefore to the Universal Park. So you can see the attraction there for the piece of land. So it almost seems perfect. Now, Universal have been quick to say that we don't actually currently have any plans for a park officially. However, they are conducting feasibility studies, and I think that means that they are very serious about putting a park or resort on that space. I think it's to be seen how long that would take. Of course, it's going to be billions of pounds investment. I'd be surprised if we see it this side of 2030 because of the kind of scale that we're talking about. I think Epic Universe was announced back around 2019, something like that, and that's only opening next year. It's taken around 6 years, although we did have the event in between, so we can consider that. So what do you guys think? Are you skeptical, or do you think this is definitely going to happen? And do you agree? Do you think it's going to change the whole landscape of theme parks in the UK?
So I think this is incredibly interesting. It's so exciting for the UK industry and the European industry. That's absolutely definite. So I think there's 2 things to factor in here, personally, for me. The first thing is that if it wasn't going to happen, I don't feel like they would have shouted as loudly about it. They've got websites up, they've done all this media, they've done all this campaigning, they've done all these surveys, more so than the Paramount Resort. And I feel there's a lot of positive stuff coming out about it. I feel like if it wasn't a legit thing for them, then they wouldn't have shouted about it as much as they have. So I think that's, personally for me, a good sign. Then looking at it from the industry point of view, I think this will be humongous. I think what it will do actually is drum up competition amongst the UK parks. Now, I'm not talking about all of the mainland parks, but if we look at the major resorts, in the UK, so let's look at like Alton Towers as a perfect example. I think Alton Towers could find some rivalry between Universal or, and this is another way to think of it, is that will this actually separate the mice from the men, so to speak, in the sense of because Universal is on a different pedestal, it's a destination theme park, right? Like Disney, Universal, SeaWorld parks, they're all destinations, yeah? Destination parks. And arguably, Alton Towers as somewhat more of a national park, right? Kind of similar to if you're comparing it to the American market, like a Cedar Fair, in terms of where they sit. But that could be a good thing, perhaps, for Alton Towers, because as we've spoken about, that could drive some of the traffic from the Universal Park to Alton Towers, and Merlin can actually find that they benefit from having the Universal Park here as opposed to seeing it as direct competition. I don't know. That's just my thoughts, but I think it's going to be really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think you've got a point there with the potential to benefit. Because if you look, like anyone who books from the UK to go to Florida, you book to go to Universal and Disney, and you nip in to SeaWorld, and you nip into Busch Gardens, and you know those I wouldn't say Busch Gardens Tampa is a destination theme park like Universal and Disney. But you go anyway, you spend a day there. So would it be a potential that, these people coming over for a week or just a weekend at Universal would consider to go to at least the local parks, like the likes of Chessington and Thorpe Park, for instance, and especially Legoland?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, I think the fact that they've announced it the way that they have done indicates that it's going to happen. I think the only thing that is in question in my mind is the scale of what we're going to see. I think Universal will have analysed the market. They'll have done the market research, and I'm hoping what they've concluded and what we've mentioned before is that there really isn't a destination resort in the UK, as Sam sort of has covered. There's a bit of a hole. And I think that hopefully they've connected some dots and thought, this is something that we can. This is a market we're familiar with. We've done it well elsewhere in the world, and I'm hoping they'll go full hog in the UK. I have my doubts. I think local parks, as Brett said, might benefit from increased traffic. I don't think that parks further away will benefit, because I think that the UK is a nightmare to drive in. Especially if you're not from the UK, it would come as a massive shock to try and get to Alton Towers. As like, it's not too far, it's only so many miles, and then realise actually on our roads, potentially that's going to be a little bit more time consuming than maybe had been planned for. But I'm really excited. I think generally this is an amazing thing. I was hoping something like this would happen, and I think Universal as a whole are doing amazingly. They're absolutely. If you're looking at what they're doing in America right now as well, I think they're getting some real leveling up happening right now, and I think other resorts do need to seriously look at stepping up their game. Our local resorts and obviously Disney and what have you, the other big names.
Yeah, that's interesting. And the thing is, just because they've bought this 500 acres of land doesn't mean that they might not buy another 500 acres of land relatively nearby, and we could see this whole resort campus kind of popping up all over the place. And like we've seen in Orlando, what Universal are not afraid to do is kind of buy up little pockets of land, to put a hotel on or put a piece of infrastructure on, even if it's not directly connected to the theme parks themselves. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them buy little pockets of land. If they need to build another hotel, maybe they'll buy a bit more land and do that. So it's going to be really interesting, and a whole industry is going to build around this, and I think it's really exciting.
I did want to talk a little bit about Horror Unleashed. I don't know if you guys have looked into this at all, but basically, it was announced last year, 2 years ago, maybe last year, that Universal were doing this Halloween Horror Nights kind of permanent attraction in Vegas, right? And then there've been more rumors circling on the rumor mill, on the UK rumor mill recently, that's saying that they're going to be building a Horror Unleashed potentially in London, which would be used as a kind of, I guess, marketing ploy or tester for a kind of similar to like a Midway. So actually that begs the question of, Universal have been digging into more of the Midway vibes. So, and I'm using that term loosely, because I don't know if anyone can relate to it on a Merlin term. You know, you have your theme parks and your midways, your dungeons, your aquariums, your theme parks or attractions which aren't quite a theme park, but they're not quite a museum. They're kind of in the middle. And we've seen Universal dip their toe with Horror Unleashed in Vegas, and then also the Kids Park in Texas, which is a very small kids-based theme park. But again, very similar to a Midway here in the UK, what we consider like a Midway. So could we actually see Universal moving into the Midway market terrestrially around the UK?
I did see that they have kind of already put protection on the names in the UK for Horror Unleashed and things like that over here. And yeah, I have heard the rumors of that. However, I actually don't think that this Horror Unleashed idea is going to work even in Vegas. I don't think that there is a huge market in America for year-round scare attractions or haunts, as they call them over there. I don't think there's a huge market for it in the UK. If you look at the year-round scare attractions we have, most of them are educational dungeons-esque ones, and then the rest are very few and far between. Are open seasonally in locations that are very convenient in the centre of London, or right at the opening of a theme park or something. I actually don't think that it would do that well here. A year-round scare attraction. It's a tough game in the UK. I think obviously with the name of Universal behind it, you might see something different. But it's a tough game, year-round scare attraction. So I would be a little bit worried, I think personally, if they tested the water with a one-off Universal horror event, because I don't think it would do as well as they'd hoped. And that might affect what they think in the future about the theme park.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, to be fair. I mean, how well does Passage del Terrain do in Blackpool? I've not yet done that, but yeah. Is that busy?
It's a brilliant attraction, and it is. I mean, to be fair, if Universal come over here, watch out, Passage del Terra, because they own all of your attraction kind of characters and things. And I guess
Right.
you can call him Freddy and hope that no one clocks on what that means. But we all know. So if Universal come over here, scare attractions in this country, I think will struggle a little bit. There is a bit of a divide in the scare industry. Obviously, working in the scare industry myself, there are some scare attractions out there that quite openly use Scream and Chucky in the London area. So yeah, I would see potentially those quaking in their boots a little bit more. And I think rightfully so, as coming from someone who works incredibly hard to create something unique and interesting. To see people just stealing Universal related characters, I think is a bit wrong. We're going off track onto Halloween related stuff. But while we're on it, assuming Universal Studios happens in the UK, what does that mean for Halloween events in theme parks or scare attractions? Because Universal Studios Halloween Horror Nights that's just the Halloween event worldwide. So would that completely change what we know as horror in sort of theme parks here?
It would absolutely blow every other theme park Halloween attraction out of the water 100 times over, basically, if they do it. Which means that the other parks are going to have to decide whether to invest more in something that can match it, or just kind of give up altogether and just let Universal take the market for October. That being said, Universal are not perfect, and our experience in Orlando with Halloween Horror Nights was that it was very much, while it was a very good attraction. It's really a bit middle of the road. It is a conga line through sound stages. It's very, very busy, very busy queues in comparison to what you would wait at Alton Towers for the mazes there. So maybe they're going to have to be careful because people aren't going to be used to the style of attraction that they offer in Orlando. They're maybe going to have to do something a little bit different. And maybe they'll start small. They'll start small and do something a bit more akin to, just theming the theme park up, having roaming actors, maybe a few scare zones, maybe a couple of mazes. Maybe they won't go the full hog with Halloween Horror Nights. But if they get it right, it's going to attract thousands and thousands of people, not just across the UK, but across Europe as well. It'd be an incredible event.
I do get the feeling that the Universal Horror Nights in Orlando are sort of victims to their own success. The reason why it's conga lines is just because everyone goes. If you're only going for a night, you basically need you don't just go in with a standard ticket. You buy fast passes in advance, and you structure your evenings, try and get the most out of it, and that's the only way you can possibly get all the attractions done. I don't think that like an equivalent event in the UK will instantly be like that. This is years of build up in Orlando. This is people going with their friends year on year, and it growing and growing and growing and growing. But I think again, the reason they're looking at it is because there is a hole in the market. I don't think we've really done scare events properly at scale in the UK. And if someone can do it, it will be Universal. They've got the rights to all of the best franchises, and they've got all of the best people to make the events look, production quality. It's exciting.
Definitely. Okay, well, let's quickly talk about what kind of attractions we might expect to see if this park does happen. They're going to want to do something new, something exciting. They're not going to want to do something similar that's already in the UK, I would imagine. And Sam, you've recently been over to Universal in Singapore, and you've seen some attractions over there that are unique to Singapore as opposed to what's in Orlando. So bearing in mind that I guess that Universal will want to bring something unique to the UK as well, what do you think in terms of the kind of attractions that would work or wouldn't work if they brought them over to the UK?
Yeah, so I think this is actually a really interesting point, isn't it? Because one thing that we suffer with in the UK, and so does Singapore, is the rain, right? So what was really interesting is that there was a lot in Singapore that was undercover, or that was engineered towards the fact that it's tropical climate there and it rains like every single day. So there was a few things that stood out to me, and I want to be quite exact with this stuff. So first of all, as you enter the park into Singapore, you have the main street, right? But that is completely covered, similar to Tokyo Disney. It is a covered main street area, and actually a lot of the walkways of that kind of New York street and Hollywood Boulevard street are undercover. As is Sci-Fi City as well, which is the other area, which is fantastic because it immediately makes it a wonderful space. If it rains, you can go there, and then there's also your lion's share of food and beverage there, and it's just a great hub of the park. Performances can happen there, meet and greets can happen there. So in terms of entertainment contingency from an operational point of view, it's fantastic. So I think we'll see a lot of that. I think we'll see a lot of covered areas. Or at least I hope we would, because obviously our weather's temperamental. The other thing that I hope that we will see is a lot of the attractions were indoors in Singapore. Now, I think we perhaps won't see a mummy coaster because I think that's already in enough parks, and ultimately the Mummy franchise is getting old. It's classic, but it's getting old. I think they'll want to do something totally different. So I think we'll see more things akin to Epic Universe. However, one thing that I think we will see, because of the fact that it is technically the first, or would be the first, European Universal Park, obviously outside of Portaventura many years ago, just for people that I know are going to pick up on that. I think we will see a lights camera action or something similar to that, which was the Twister of Orlando, or lights camera action, which is the Steven Spielberg kind of automated special effects stage show situation, which is fantastic. It just runs on a loop. It's 15 minutes. It's all automated, and it's based on movie making magic, and it really captures that wonderful sense of nostalgia. And I think we'll see that because I think to Europeans, if they're not familiar with the Universal brand, I mean, who wouldn't be? But or the concept of the park, it gives them that. I think we'll also see some indoor coasters, definitely indoor coasters. One thing that I genuinely think we could see is, and this is more geared towards Jurassic Park, I think we could absolutely see a Jurassic Park ride similar to that of Beijing, so a dark ride. But also, I don't think it's out the realm of possibility to see a Rapids adventure. It's because the UK loves a Rapids ride, right? We love a Rapids ride. It's family. It's we have it in a lot of our parks, and I think it's just a staple classic. People love the Rapids, and I think they're going to need to do things that are family and thrilling. And the Rapids ride in Singapore, the Jurassic Park Rapids ride, is absolutely, I mean, I raved about it when we last talked about it, but it was just absolutely fantastic. So secretly, I really hope they bring that in. My last point that I want to touch on, I am really, really hopeful we will see a water world. Now, I hope they have. Waterworld is the big stunt show. We have nothing in the UK that is high quality, major stunt show arena entertainment. Now, yes, Legoland Windsor Resort, I love you all, by the way, has the pirate stunt show, which is fantastic. So when we think of stunt shows in the UK, that's what we always think of. However, we've got nothing that is like really, really high spec, flames, jet skis, explosions, nothing. In fact, I don't even think there's anything in Europe now anymore, with Disney removing the lights most of action. So I think it could be really interesting to see if we see a major stunt show come back to this resort. It might be seasonal, but it would be cool if it was all year round. I think that's what I'd like to see.
What I'm thinking, Sam, is that to me, if they're going to spend billions of pounds on a park in the UK, then clearly they're going for international guests as well, particularly around Europe. I think surely they will have to have at least a handful of attractions that are kind of British, I guess. And obviously, I know that Universal don't have the license for this, but wouldn't a 007 style action show be incredible? Wouldn't that be something that people would instantly attach to the UK and be something that people would talk about? I think while things like Waterworld would be incredible, it's not something that kind of links to me to the UK. I think with California, it's near the Pacific and it's got that kind of vibe. But maybe 007 or something like that would be something that people might be attracted to, maybe.
What a fantastic idea that is. When you said that, my camera's not on, but because I'm ill, but I was like, whoa, that would be amazing. You could totally imagine that, couldn't you? Oh man, that could be so exciting. I want to be cast for that show. That'd be great.
All right, Brett, what do you think?
One thing I want to say, and it's just two words, and we haven't said these two words yet, and I don't know how. Harry Potter. I think there's potential. We see Universal Studios and then we see Islands of Adventure. I think there's potential that they will do an entire bigger version than what we see over in Universal as we know it now, in terms of the whole Land of Harry Potter stuff. Because it's like you said, very much like the 007 thing. It's ours. It was written in Scotland. I think to not have a significant thing around Harry Potter would be crazy. They obviously would do that. And I wonder if they would consider doing a small, maybe on the scale of the likes of Ferrari Land in Spain, next to Portaventura, a small theme park that only, it's maybe a half a day thing, that they would do specific Harry Potter related stuff.
Well, like what you were touching on earlier, is that I agree that I still think in the UK the whole studio nostalgia, the studio tours, the kind of studio experience is still very popular in the UK. We've seen that with the Harry Potter experience that's down closer to Watford. I think there's a Shrek experience in there that's kind of similar. The only thing, I think I'd be disappointed to just see a kind of carbon copy of Hogwarts and Hogsmeade. I think that would be too lazy to do that. But maybe something. And I don't know. Am I right in saying this? Can anyone kind of verify this? As far as I understand it, Epic Universe, the Ministry of Magic is going to be the Paris Ministry of Magic, not the London Ministry of Magic. Although I think originally, I think the idea was that you were going to go from London to Paris. So that kind of raises a question: could we see a massive version of the London Ministry of Magic and attractions that were linked to that? Maybe, perhaps.
I mean, we could be completely out, and we could actually just see a miniaturized version of everything we're talking about. Like you said, this is going to cost billions. It's going to cost millions and millions to even get to an answer, yes or no. Never mind actually building any of it. I do have a lot of hope seeing Universal now building, Epic Universe. They seem to really be pushing this new theme park style that they want to go for. And they seem to, with Epic Universe, have these really specific islands. They all have these kind of portals to another world. Can we see maybe a copy of that style?
I think we'll definitely see that. I think that is Universal's new style of building parks. I know people have said Universal Studios. I don't think it will be necessarily Universal Studios. I think it will be a Epic Universe style theme park, I would say, because I'm sure that I read something that was their new concept. That was their concept of a theme park. So I'd be very surprised if they did it for Epic Universe and then went back to building a carbon copy of Universal Studios. I would say.
I think it's a funny one to try and speculate on, isn't it? Because if we look at what Disney did in France, like they didn't build the Cinderella castle, did they? In Paris, they went for the Sleeping Beauty castle because all of that's they didn't want to just build another castle like all the ones next door that actually existed in real life. And instead of building Pirates of the Caribbean, they weren't going to do that initially in Florida, were they? Because it seemed like it's a done thing. There's lots of that kind of theming already that already existed in Florida, so they initially steered off in a different direction. Harry Potter is a bit of a funny one because it's all based here in the UK on things that we like. If you go to York, that's very Hogmeady. There's a lot of familiarity that we already see. So on the one hand, they might want to do it because for the international guests, it would be a way to see all this cool stuff, and it's something that we do associate with home in the UK. But in another way, it might be quite nice to just go a completely different path and bring something more novel into the mix. I think what's interesting though is, and what I didn't think about is what Sam said about it rains all the time in the UK, and they're going to want something that is resilient no matter what. So it makes you wonder about that land use, because if there is a lot of for instance, they could build underground. There could be a basement layer and bring in all sorts and essentially have double the land usage. You don't know what they might be planning, but if they're clever with it, they will try and build a resort that's as resilient to all kinds of situations, and the weather will definitely be a consideration.
I think the way I see it is, I think they need to go big or go home. In my opinion, I don't see the point in investing in a park which would only have regional interest, i.e., only interest the UK. I don't think it makes any sense. Because you'd still have to spend billions on a park like that, because you'd have to get all the land ready and still build the rides. So maybe it costs double the cost, but actually you've got potentially hundreds of more millions of people that might be interested in visiting. So I'm very hopeful that this is going to be a kind of mega investment.
I just don't think, I hate to say this, guys, I really don't think they're going to do a Wizarding World of Harry Potter. I just don't think they're going to do that. because you've got Leavesden, and let's not forget Warner. I know it's Universal because Universal have the rights in Asia and in America, but Warner Brothers has the rights in the UK because it's Leavesden is a Warner Brothers attraction. So now this is where the difficulty comes in. Now, could we see Warner Brothers and Universal work together like they always have worked together? And let's not forget that in Asia they still have their kind of touring immersive experiences. Warner Brothers still do their Harry Potter touring immersive experiences like the Magical Forest. They still have that in Asia, and that is a Warner Brothers Harry Potter experience, while the Universal attraction still exists. But the problem is Universal was there before Warner Brothers came in with the immersive attraction. The question here is that could we then maybe see Warner Brothers pair up with Universal and offer kind of like a combo ticket, like a multi-day ticket, where it's like come to the Universal Park and then take a bus, or there's like an interconnected bus or some sort of combo ticket that you could go and experience the Loopston attraction if they wanted to do that synergy between the two. But I just have a lot of doubts because Warner Brothers really capitalized on the fact that they were the OG. You know, it's they have the rights to it, and it's theirs. And they were the ones that were building the Harry Potter attraction in the first place. Now, if Universal come on and say, "Well, we're going to use our theme park rights," I have a funny feeling that Warner Brothers would kick up a fuss.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially with a rival attraction not very far away. You're absolutely right. They'd never allow that to happen.
I think these IP rights tend to be sort of regional anyway. I don't think Universal necessarily have the right to build a Harry Potter attraction wherever they want. I think it will be regional. I'd imagine there'll be a kind of Warner Brothers, it's a Warner Brothers property anyway, but they haven't given the rights to anyone in that area in the UK. So unless they give the rights to Universal, I don't believe that they can do it anyway. That being said, that's an interesting idea, Sam, that if they did build a complementary attraction where you can ride the movies at Universal and then you can go and see the kind of studio tour down at the Warner Brothers attraction, that could be a compromise maybe. That could be interesting.
I mean, the more I think of it, I think Dan brought this up, and now I realise that it would be weird going to a theme park to see King's Cross Station and platform 9 3/4 when you literally got a train there that went through King's Cross Station and platform.
Yeah.
It does, you know, like, oh, they're gonna build a Big Ben 40 minutes from Big Ben. Yeah, okay, I see that.
I think that's the thing with the themed lands. I think it would be weird. However, that being said, I think when it comes to the shows, I still think if they had got the rights for something like 007, I think that would be an incredible pull still, and wouldn't be too weird because it would be incredibly popular in the UK as well, and there isn't anything like it anywhere.
I'm pretty sure in the Paramount Park they were going to do. Where did I see concept art of a 007 land in the Paramount Park in Kent, and the entrance was the 007, and the like entrance bit where you move through was the second O in the 007. It was like the middle O, sorry. So you move through.
Yeah,
I'm sure that was a thing. Am I making that up?
Yeah,
thanks. Yeah, I'm sure.
They had a lot of concept art though, didn't they? They had like a random dinosaurs area and all sorts of stuff. I think that was the problem with the London resort. I think why a lot of people didn't believe it was going to happen in a way was that it just looked, this sounds weird, but the park looked too British. I think we said at the time, who is it for? Like, does someone in Britain want to go to a theme park themed like Britain? Like, you already live here, so who is it for? And then it's just for international guests. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So they're going to have to balance it out. They're going to have to think, well, how is it going to attract UK guests and how is it going to attract the international guests? So it's a definite balancing act. So I think we'll start to wrap up there. Dan, have you got any final thoughts that you want to leave with us?
I think just on the Universal Park, I would love to see the Mario stuff brought to the UK. That would be fantastic. And I would love to see How to Train Your Dragon brought to the UK as well, because it's one of my favourite animated films. I think it's brilliant for loads and loads of reasons. And I think it's really, both of those franchises are so family oriented and will appeal to so many people. So obviously it'll be years till we find out what the plan is, but that would be my hope.
Okay, Brett.
I think it's exciting times for UK theme parks. I think in general, we're starting to see nice, big new roller coasters and updated roller coasters this year coming, and then have something even bigger to look forward to in the future. So fingers crossed, this is an upwards trend, and we see a nice new renaissance in the UK theme park world.
Perfect. And Sam, I'll let you have the final thought.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think if there's anything to take away from Universal coming to the UK is that the European theme park market, just like Brett and Dan and yourself, Ryan, have said, the UK theme park market and the European theme park market is going to have a massive boost, which is going to add to the economy and actually put, I think, our entertainment industry that we love back on the map and into more of the focus of things for tourism, for attractions. And yeah, I just can't wait. I can't wait to see each of the parks pushing each other. And therefore, because they're pushing each other, how we're all going to benefit from that as consumers.